Today we're going to review The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, a movie that was starring and directed by Ben Stiller.
Yes,
he did both of those things in the movie.
He did both of them, and I liked it. End of review. See you guys later.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
I really liked this movie.
I loved it.
What'd you think, Ryan?
I loved it.
Good. I wanted you to love it.
I loved it. I hope you loved it too.
No, I did, and I gotta say, I mean, one of the strong points for me was, man, the cinematography was just so
like, every
amazing.
shot was just so well constructed, and there's a lot of really cool shots with like layering effects and blah 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 blah. But just all the cinematography, like on the sets, or I mean, the locations were just beautiful.
Yeah, Sean, what'd you think of the movie?
Yeah, I really liked it too. I mean, again, this was a little surprising to me because not that I was expecting to not like, but I know the other reviews have been mixed and stuff. But really, to me, it was just really kind of refreshing. And one of the things, again, like American Hustle, I really appreciated was how funny it was. Yeah. And that, I think, to me, again, it built up this kind of credibility of just being ridiculous funny. Like, the trailers don't even do justice in terms of the comedy aspect. But then, so that when it gets to a little bit more of those serious moments, not quite hokey, but, you know, a little bit more cliche, you know what I mean? They had all those comedies, so it built up credibility with me, and I'm fine with doing those moments because it had all this other stuff to it too, and it had much more better context.
Right, like all the humor, I think a lot of it obviously came from the daydreaming, which we don't see from the trailers is going to be quite so hilarious and extreme.
I think that a lot of this movie is riding on the fact that you have to buy into Ben Stiller's character, and the fact that he really is like imagining these things, and like it wouldn't have worked if, you know, the actor didn't do his part, and I think Ben Stiller really did.
Yeah, no, and him along with Adam Scott and Kristen Wiig, you have a lot
Sean
of these,
Penn.
The comedians. Well, not Sean Penn, but he was funny in the movie.
He was.
You have a lot of these great actors who are comedians or whatever are in this movie, and they do a hilarious job. Patton Oswalt too.
This is one of those movies that really gave me the warm and fuzzies
right there.
inside. Right
there.
When the credits hit, I'm just like, I bought into it. You know, I'm a sap when it comes to these type of movies. As a movie, the only one like criticism I can really think of about the movie is that it does kind of feel like two movies. Particularly the whole aspect of, you know, the second half or second two acts or so. There's
when he begins his adventure.
About the middle point, he goes on this adventure. Spoilers, I won't be more vague than that.
No.
But it felt more. It reminded me very much of these movies like I don't know if you guys have seen World Fastest Indian or like The Way, the one where he's like, okay, I gotta go do this for me because I gotta have the spiritual quest to find, and it's a lot of scenic. It's a lot of outdoor backdrops, and it's very, very nature. But the first half of the movie is you know, the sequence where he's daydreaming. It's like, oh, we're having this crazy battle down the streets of New York that's something out of a comic book. Yeah. So in that respect, when you get to the later parts of the movie and you think back to the first half of the movie, you're like, was this the same movie even?
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially when we get to the second act when the adventure begins. I felt like they should have ramped it up a little more evenly, because when it goes, it's just going, you're like, it feels like he's daydreaming.
Right.
Which, I mean, I'm sure it was an intended effect.
Yeah.
But I think the ramp up could have been a little smoother, so we could have gotten there, you know, as an audience.
And there are things that they do in that later part of the movie that try to tie thematically and aesthetically back to the first half, like when he's seeing kind of the hallucinations in the sky. And
I mean, I agree that there does feel like a huge difference, but I think it was intentional. I think part of it goes to kind of thematically of it being about, like, you know, he has these crazy imaginations, but then when you think of what he really did, in some ways they're more amazing than his imagination.
Right.
It's, you know, it's a metaphor and it's all about life. I mean, Life magazine and stuff. So I actually kind of appreciate that. One thing I don't know if I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I had second thoughts about the initial ending, about the photograph, and this is, you know, getting to the specifics, but I kind of didn't like it at first, where you see what the photograph was. But on more reflection, I actually really did like that they showed it. I don't know what you guys thought about it.
There were a couple things like that. The fact that it was, you know, in his wallet, or the fact that the little things when there were a couple things that felt convenient, but then in keeping with the theme of the movie, it did feel. Upon thinking about it for a couple more seconds, it felt like it was okay in this movie.
To me,
and I don't know why it was
like
okay.
when you see it and it hit me, I thought it was perfect in that moment, because before that, and they don't show us, like, okay, they're not going to show us because there's no image that could possibly be portrayed that could be that perfect ending.
After it has been hyped up the entire movie,
but then when they show it, I'm like, dang it, they tricked me. I don't say tricked me, but they made me believe it, and that was the perfect thing that they could have shown.
But that was the point. They're not only tricking Ben Stiller, but they're tricking the audience, and that's
it's beautiful
that
filmmaking.
Life isn't about necessarily all these crazy imagination of superpowers and a perfect moment. It's just about sometimes it's about being
it's a perfect
there.
moment.
And I think that really ties in a lot of with the theming, because it was so easy for a film like this, and I've seen it in other films too, of like, cast off your, suburban shackles or your urban environment and go out and live your life in the world, like, Into the Wild or something, right? And, like, I totally buy into that. I love that idea. But I love that this movie, it captured that spirit of that, of, like, the true spirit of man, without this, like, no, he loved his job. He loved what he did.
Yeah, his life had meaning in it.
Yeah, and
already.
it did. And exactly. And so I thought they did a good job of, giving him that true human nature experience. But still, like, he did it all for a reason, something that he loved.
I think the thing is that ultimately, if you're a cynic and you're just someone, you're probably not going to like, because, and I'm for sure cynical as the next guy, especially in lots of ways. But I don't know, for some reason, I was able to kind of look past that. But I could see how people...
Yeah, this is a movie that has flaws, but it really, like I said with me, you gotta be someone who's willing to buy into into what the movie's selling you, what the movie's trying to make you feel. It's manipulative, but it.
Right, like, based on the trailers, I was cynical towards him. I thought it was going to be very dry and, like, okay, I'm going to learn a lesson
okay,
here.
I get it.
All right.
I get it.
Movie. We get it.
Okay, so Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I think it's definitely a movie that's going to split audiences, especially if you go in kind of expecting it to be more than it's trying to be. And cinematography and acting, great, fantastic even. That about sums up.
That's it. That's good.
I would say so. I would say so.
It's a good secret.
Also, it was a remake.
Yeah. Well, wait. Do you want me to? Okay, that's good.
Cut.